Dr. Tabatha, the functional gynecologist. I'm a board-certified OBGYN and functional medicine physician. I've embraced the world of functional medicine and wellness through my own personal health journey, and I'm super excited to share my wisdom and unique perspective as it pertains to women's health. So if you're struggling with hormone imbalance, weight gain, period issues, anxiety, insomnia, you name it, then you've come to the right place. I want to be your functional gynecologist. So welcome. I'm really excited about this week's episode because we are talking about hydration and water. I know that sounds really boring and you are like, oh my gosh, I know about water. I got to drink my 8 glasses a day. Like, how are you having a whole podcast episode on this? But let me tell you, my guest today, Dr. Dana Cohen, is going to kind of blow your mind probably, because I was super excited and surprised when I first heard her talking about the new science of water. So we typically think that there's 3 phases of water, right? There's liquid, solid, and vapor. There is a 4th phase, it turns out. There has been tons of research done, and what they have found is there's something called structured water. And my guest has written a whole book on it called Quench. And it's really changing the way that we see our physiology and our body functioning and how we can support it with structured water. So this is a really cool episode. I'm excited. So Dr. Dana, she has been practicing integrative medicine for the last 20 years in Manhattan. She has been known as New York City's best kept secret. So she's a nationally renowned internal and integrative medicine specialist whose multidisciplinary approach has helped treat thousands of patients using a variety of conventional and complementary therapies. In practice for nearly 2 decades, Dr. Dana trained under the late Dr. Robert Atkins, who is the author of the iconic Dr. Atkins' New Diet Revolution, and also Dr. Ronald Hoffman, a pioneer of integrative medicine and founder of the Hoffman Center in New York City. So Dr. Dana, she went to St. George's University School of Medicine. She did a 3-year internal medicine residency at Albany Medical Center. She's board certified in the American Board of Internal Medicine, and then she was appointed to the board of directors of the American College of Advancement of Medicine. She's a leading voice in integrative medicine, where she currently serves as advisor to the board of directors and advisor to the education committee. That's pretty cool that she's helping shape the curriculum of up-and-coming new physicians. So in addition, she's on the scientific advisory board of the Organic and Natural Health Association. So Dr. Dana co-authored this book, Quench, Beat Fatigue, Drop Weight, Heal Your Body Through the New Science of Optimal Hydration, with cultural anthropologist Gina Bria. So the cool thing is that it goes in paperback today as we're recording, so it should be out by the time you hear this. You can get it on Amazon, wherever books are sold. I'll have the links in my show notes because it's really cool new science, and it could be the missing link to jumpstarting your return to health. So I'm really excited. We're going to talk about how structured water, what the signs and symptoms of this mild dehydration are, of us not getting enough structured water in our diets, and how we can fix that. We also have some awesome discussions on movement as a hydrating act. So that's kind of a really cool thought. I love it. As an osteopathic physician, I was trained to really look to the structural part of the body as helping the physiology, the internal organs, what's going on chemically in your body. It's all connected. So it's so awesome to have this discussion with Dr. Dana today. So stay tuned and listen. Look for a golden nugget. Look for a piece of information that you can start incorporating in your life today to add to what you're already doing to make an improvement, to make a difference, because I promise there's going to be lots of golden nuggets today. So it's going to be good. Stay listening through the whole thing. And then shout me out on social, Dr. Tabatha. Hit me up, throw me your questions. I'm here to help support you, serve you. I need to know what you want to hear about. I'm out here guessing. I know what I want to hear about. I know what my patients locally want to hear about, but I want to know what you want to hear about. So shoot me your questions. I would love it if you'd hit the subscribe button. Let iTunes and YouTube know that this information is important to you. Cool. So let's get on with it. Let's meet Dr. Dana. Welcome, Dr. Dana, to the Functional Gynecologist Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'm super excited for this conversation today because we're going to talk about stuff that seems really basic, but it's so important, right?
Yes, and it turns out it's not that basic.
Yeah, that's the cool part. Oh my gosh, when I first started hearing you talk about your book, Quench, I was like, wow, that's amazing. There's so much more to water than we realize. And what really hit me was you were talking about how people will just slam like 8 or 10 glasses of water and they will still feel dehydrated because they're not getting it in a structured way. So that was really eye-opening to me. And I was like, I need to hear more about this. So thank you for being here today.
I'm very happy to be here. Today is actually a special day because it's the day that the book is coming out in paperback. After 2 long years, it's finally out in paperback, which is really exciting.
Awesome.
And so now hopefully more people can get it in their hands.
Okay. So yeah, go to Amazon, or I'll have the links in my show notes and we'll make sure people have access to Quench. Cool. Okay. So why did you write this book?
I've been practicing functional integrative medicine for over 20 years. And I started my career working for Dr. Atkins of the Atkins diet.
Right.
And, being in that world with Dr. Atkins, especially, I've always known I have to write a book. You need a platform in this field. I could never figure out what I wanted to write on. I didn't want to write another hormone book or another thyroid book, which, basically you have to do blood tests, see your doctor. I didn't, yeah, there's a lot to it, but it just wasn't. And honestly, that's most of my patient population is menopausal women. And I do a ton of hormones, but I thought the books were out there. And one day, my co-author came in to talk to me about the work she's doing with the Hydration Foundation. And she told me about the work of Dr. Gerald Pollack, which is, he's the water researcher who has discovered a 4th phase of water. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she described this gel or structured water. And then she also is an anthropologist, and she did her research on how desert people hydrate. And we just got to talking, and I said to her, it's funny, I always ask my patients, do you drink enough water? And inherently, most of them say no. And, at the time I was like, well, you got to drink more water, never really thinking about structured water or eating your water or food as water. And she really got me thinking about that. And I just looked at her, I said, Gina, do you want to write this book? I've been searching for a book that can affect more, the most amount of people. And I know this is it. Hydration. And it made it sexy. It made it interesting because it's not just about drinking more water. And so she said yes. And we started, and that's when we started. And it's funny because when I started to really then delve into the research is when I realized, whoa, this is way more complicated than I ever imagined. What am I doing writing this book? I'm not a water researcher. We all thought H2O is the simplest molecule in the world. It turns out it's incredibly complicated, but we persevered and I think really came up with a really helpful book that is helping and can help a lot of people.
That's so awesome. And I will tell you, I heard you on a different podcast talking about structured water and how chia seeds are like a great way to get hydrated. And you tell the story of the nursing home because that really hits home with me. I was a nurse's aide back in the day before I went to undergrad and med school. Like I took care of the frail elderly people who couldn't drink, didn't want to eat, they were chronically dehydrated. And I just think it's so eye-opening for people to realize the importance of structured water. So please share
Yeah.
that with me.
Yeah, it's actually a great story. So it's also one of the reasons how Gina and I really connected, because she told me the story about her mother, who was in a nursing home suffering from dementia, as my mother was too. So,
Mm.
and at the time I was a medical student and I couldn't do much to help my mom. I remember, like, at the time, I'm sorry, no, I was actually working for Dr. Atkins at the time, and I couldn't even get them to give her a vitamin E, or any kind of
Oh my
supplement.
gosh.
And so we really bonded on that. But her mom, this was a great story. So her mom was a very proud Austrian woman, would never ask for help if she didn't, need it, and so wouldn't ask to drink. Like if she was thirsty, like would never bother somebody to do that. And in the nursing home, she ended up many times in the emergency room, suffering from dehydration, from chronic UTIs, urinary tract infections, and then Gina read the book Born to Run, and that's the Tarahumara tribe of elite runners from these deserts of Mexico who run for fun, basically 50-mile marathons, and they used chia seeds to run, and it held on to their hydration and moisture, and so she started to study chia seeds a lot, and so she told the nurses, if you can we put a little chia in her morning orange juice once a day? And that's all they had to do, change that up. And never again did she was now much better hydrated first thing in the morning, which is how desert people hydrate. They front load their water. Chia seeds, you're getting so much hydration. And she never had to go to the emergency room again. It really helped her immensely, like night and day overnight.
That's so cool. So the chia seeds create this gel-like structure and it holds the water, right?
It's much better absorbed. It holds onto water better. It's loaded with parent omega-3 fatty acids, alpha linoleic acid, ALA, which we need for our cell membranes, which we need to get the water in. Like that's what supports the cell. So for many reasons, yeah, chia is the star of the show in our book as far as foods. And it's a superfood. So it's fiber, it's gel water. Anybody who's put chia in chia pudding, you see the gel that forms around it that is loaded with this H3O2, which is structured water. According to Dr. Pollack, that's the equation. And so even though it's still H2O, it shares electrons by layering upon each other. There's a sharing of electrons. And then when you calculate it out, it's more like H3O2. So.
Okay, so is structured water something that we purchase or something that our body makes?
Um, Purchasing, I don't know about. So let me say what I mean by that. There are these devices that can structure water, these vortexers, and there may be something to them. I don't think the research is there yet at all on these structuring water devices. So I don't know about buying water. Although I think if you buy natural spring water or go get natural spring water, you don't necessarily have to buy it. That is loaded with structured water. That is more structured than regular plain tap bulk water, just dead
Mhm.
water.
Okay, so we're making it inside our bodies with what we're putting in.
Right. So things that help structure water are electrolytes, minerals. There are fiber. Um, but I think it's more about eating. Structured water is how it's found in nature. It's found within our cells and how it's found in nature. So most of the water in like celery, for example, is structured water, or in cucumbers, in iceberg lettuce. People thought it had no nutritional value. It turns out it's incredibly hydrating. It's one of the really hydrating lettuce. And for that reason alone, it's phenomenal to eat. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Okay. So we want to just focus on eating fibrous foods that can hold the water, that hold the water themselves. I think of watermelon as a great summertime hydration source,
And everybody knows that. You know that instinctively. When you're thirsty, you eat a piece of watermelon and it literally quenches your thirst, more so
Yeah.
than just drinking ever more and more water. Like you said earlier, these people that I drink water all day long, I can't quench my thirst. And it's because you're not doing it right. You need fiber, you need minerals, you need electrolytes, those kind of things.
So what are the most common symptoms or complaints that someone would have if they're not getting enough of the structured water?
Well, so or any water, let's just say, if you're not hydrating enough. I just want to take one quick step back by saying
Yeah.
drinking regular water may be enough for people. It's not like you have to drink structured water if you're eating well, eating lots of vegetables, and then you're drinking some water. The issue is, how much water do people need? We don't know. It's different for everybody. You have to find out what your set point is. And the way that you find out is some of the things that we're going to talk about right now, symptoms and what it feels like to feel terrific in your skin and what it feels like to feel hydrated. So signs of and also, we're not talking about overt dehydration where you have to go to the hospital and get an IV because you've been vomiting all day. That is easily measurable, and clinical signs and symptoms are specific to that. So that's overt dehydration. I am talking about this day in, day out, low grade chronic dehydration that all of us suffer from. And it's important to note because it's quite easy to learn this stuff, to to learn how to hydrate properly. The thing is, you have to be on top of it day in and day out, hour by hour kind of thing. It's the one thing I ask people, like, live in your body, don't be cut off from your head, know what it feels like, and do better. And it's not like I'm asking you to eat diet foods that are disgusting, or go on a diet. I'm just asking you to hydrate and keep it on the top of your mind, because it is to me, the single most important thing we can do to treat and prevent chronic illness. You have to start here. Before you go on any nutrition plan, any diet plan, any supplement regimen, you need to start here. And so back to the
Yeah,
symptoms.
yeah. And what I'm realizing is, I don't think our grandparents and great grandparents needed to worry about this, right? Isn't this like a newer issue because we have so many environmental toxins and other things that our bodies are constantly processing and working on, that we're requiring more hydration? Is
Oh,
that
for sure.
correct?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, our
Yeah,
environments are different than they were from even 5 years ago. Think
yeah.
about all the electronics, think about the EMF, all the ultra fluorescent lighting, um, medications, processed foods, heat, air conditioning, all that stuff. And we're not moving the way that we used to. We're not, everything is so convenient. I love this example. Think about in our cars, like, you used to have to turn to back out of the driveway. You don't even have to do that anymore. There's a camera right in front of your car where you don't have to turn your head. We're not moving the way that we used to move. Everything is so convenient. We're getting groceries delivered more and more. Granted, we're in a pandemic, but even before the pandemic, it's just everything is so super convenient, and we're not moving the way we used to. And we'll talk about movement is a hydrating act. So yeah, our environments play a huge role in this, and we need to stay on top of it. It's why we have more chronic illness than we ever have before. We may be living longer, but we're certainly not living better, from
Right,
a health standpoint.
exactly.
You know.
Yeah. So don't have your head disconnected from your body. Be paying attention to the signals. Symptoms are signals, right? So tell me what the main ones are that you're looking for.
Um, I'll give you some of the big. I mean, the common ones that everybody knows about. These are big, but like headaches, um, constipation, dry skin. Those are all the things that we know about this little, brain fog. Um, what else? Uh, where was I going to go with that? So those are the big things. Some of the important things to really look for is, number one, we are meant to urinate every 2 or 3 hours. If you're not getting up to pee every 2 or 3 hours, you're not hydrating enough during our waking hours, obviously, because we make these antidiuretic hormone at night that prevents us from getting up in the middle of the night to pee. So during waking hours, we're supposed to be getting up to pee every 2 or 3 hours. I used to sit at my desk for 10 hours straight, not get up once to pee, and be like, what am I doing?
Hmm.
So that's a big one. You want to look at the color of your urine. It should be a nice straw color, not clear, not dark. That's a really good way. This is not so great, but you want to pinch your skin and see if it tense up. Um,
Well, yeah,
that's
I
sort of,
totally notice that in the evenings sometimes when I have not taken care of myself and done anything good for myself, grabbed
yeah,
a gluten-free Domino's pizza or something nasty and I'm all dehydrated. Like it shows in my skin and my hands look
yeah,
10 years older than they normally do. And it's like,
yeah,
oh, why do I
yeah.
do that to myself?
I know we all do. So I'm here to remind people, like, live in your bodies, think about it. This is the first step. And it's a really important step because things start to domino in a good way after you start doing this. I've seen it time and time again. Um, so what else can I tell you about signs and symptoms? Let's talk about thirst for a second. Um,
Yeah.
Thirst is very interesting. I really believe that if you're thirsty, you've gone too far. You've waited too long. And it's interesting because for some reason, this is like a source of what's the word I'm looking for? Combat between regular doctors and maybe functional. A lot of regular doctors think like, what's the problem if you're thirsty, you drink. Period. Like there's no,
Right, right. And
um,
what I learned was if you're thirsty, you're way beyond
yeah.
what you've required at
For
this
sure,
point.
I think so too. And thirst is not a great for a lot of reasons. Number one, we lose our ability to sense thirst as we get older. That happens, but also we've learned to override our thirst. We are, especially us as doctors, we're working in
Hmm.
the hospital for all these hours. You don't want to have to stop to pee, or you don't want, or let's say, stockbrokers or whoever it is. We want to not be able to bother ourselves with having to go to the bathroom. If you're drivers, let's say you're a truck driver, they don't want to have to. They very specifically. Don't drink on purpose. So they don't have to stop the truck and go pee.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
I mean,
know,
I have that conversation in my head every time I fly. Like, I don't want to have to pee in the airplane. I don't want to have to sit and hold it. So then I don't drink. And then I get dehydrated because it's a
yeah.
horrible situation. So,
So that environment is really, really horrible. But it's interesting because we lay out in the book. There's a case study about a flight attendant, and
oh,
the truth is, uh, you're not only doing yourself a favor by getting up to pee on the airplane because you're moving, but you're doing your neighbor who you're interrupting to move and get up and go
yes.
pee.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
so yeah, yeah, it's
Well,
important.
good. So, talk to me about fascia because movement is so essential. And I'm an osteopathic physician, so I had to study fascia till the cows came home. But, I don't know that they impressed upon us enough the fact that it has value and it's part of your hydration system and that it moves fluids, and
Yeah,
that if you're dehydrated, your fascia doesn't move as well. I think of like an old rotten rubber band that you try and move it and it just snaps and
yeah.
breaks, as opposed to a nice, soft rubber band that can move. That's what I think of fascia in our bodies, like
That's a
coating our
great
muscles.
great yeah, that's a really great example. When I was in medical school, that we never studied fascia in a cadaver. It's like you would cut
Wow.
away the fascia, get rid of it, because it was all dried, desiccated muck. Who knew?
Yeah.
And it was this very brilliant doctor, Guimberto. He's a French, I think he was a plastic surgeon, I'm not 100% sure, who decided to put a camera under the living skin of somebody to look at fascia, like an electron microscope camera. And when you see it, it is absolutely beautiful and breathtaking that you realize that this is a living system. It does move water. It moves hydration like a hydraulic pump. So, which is a really new idea. We've only ever thought that fluid gets moved via blood and lymph,
Right.
right? And now we know that there's another system, and the idea of you got to move your joints to lubricate them. Well, now we really understand why, because this is a hydrating act. Moving your head up and down, you're pushing fluid up and down your spine. Fascia is working like a hydraulic pump. Twisting is really important. And once again, why sitting is maybe the is considered the new smoking, because you're another reason why it's not good for you is you're squelching delivery of fluid to your periphery.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting for hours on end, you have to get up and pee and move around. It's that important. So yeah, fascia is definitely finally giving its due. It is a huge organ in the body. It not only moves fluid, it's an electrical system. So which is interesting because we only thought nerves were the only electrical system. Um, and think about how water conducts electricity, but gel water conducts electricity better. Um, and think about like an EKG, when we put that jelly on, sorry, an ultrasound, when we put that jelly on somebody's body to do the ultrasound, it's a better conductor, you
Right.
know. So the EKG, those pads have that gel on them. They're just a better conductor. So gel water is a better
Yeah.
conductor of electricity. And this is a little, how do I say, maybe premature, because there's not a huge amount of studies on it, but it makes complete sense to me that water is electrical energy. So it's not just moistening, it's not just the universal solvent, it's actually energy. From an electrical standpoint, and they're showing that even from a cellular standpoint, the way that water flows in and out of the cells, there's believed to be electrical energy being made from that, like a hydraulic pump, hydraulic energy.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
yeah, so it's
Yeah, I
really
don't
fascinating.
think we give enough credence to the fact that we're electrical human beings, that we're passing electrons all day long, and yeah, I don't mean to bash on our colleagues, but it's kind of like poo-pooed in conventional medicine. Like these EMFs can't harm you and
Yeah.
nothing in the environment's really affecting you. But we, MRIs are hydrogen electrons in our body moving around, creating pictures. That's how the MRI pictures are created.
Yeah.
The EKG that you mentioned, that's the electrical activity in our body keeping us alive, the ultrasound. So I want people to realize, like, there's more to you than just some organs and some tissue. I mean, you are a living, breathing, electrical being by mind, body, and spirit. So I love
Yes.
that you
Yeah.
touch on that. It's so
It's fun.
important.
I love the EKG example, because we put electrodes on somebody's body. We're measuring electrical energy, right? We're measuring it from the heart, and if there's a heart attack or a scar, that electricity is cut off, and we can measure it. It's just so interesting to me that Chinese medicine and acupuncture, which is basically the same thing, using meridians and electrical points all over the body, is not recognized.
Right.
So it's very interesting to me. But also, and then one other thing, going back to the MRI, we talk a little bit about this in the book too. When you're doing an MRI, you're measuring basically water in the, if you're not hydrated, your brains are not, your MRI is going to be off. The picture is not going to be as normal, or as what it should be if you're not properly hydrating. You need that water for your brain to light up properly. And we talk about concussions in the book a little bit. And when these people are maybe diagnosed with concussions doing MRIs or something like that, um, they have to know to be properly hydrated before they do it. And if a kid's coming in from a football game and sweating, and it's very
Right.
interesting that I think,
They're already dehydrated, right?
yeah, and nobody's
Yeah,
talking about it.
exactly. And talk a little bit about the new glymphatic system that we now understand, or, it's not commonplace to study in medicine, but, the research is there that there's fluid and that we need water for our brain system.
Yeah, so that's that's the third really big, for me, mind-blowing thing in the book. So the first is the discovery of gel water. Like, whoa. um, the second is fascia as a hydraulic pump, and then there's a couple of very big ideas, but the glymphatic system. Just when you think in medicine, we know everything about the human body and physiology. All of a sudden, they tell us there is a whole new organ that's been discovered just a few years ago. And that's this glymphatic system. So we've always known that the brain needs to detoxify. We could never figure out how it does it. Like, how does something cross the blood-brain barrier? There is no lymph in the brain the way that our bodies detoxify. And it was basically hiding in plain sight. And these scientists discovered this, it's called the glymphatic system. And it is a series of channels of how the brain gets rid of toxins. And in order for our lymphatic system and our glymphatic system to function, we absolutely have to be hydrated. There's no doubt. I mean, there's just period. You need that to get rid of it, because how do we get rid of toxins? We get rid of them through sweat. We get rid of them through pee. We get rid of them through poop. We get rid of some of them through breathing, and these are all hydrating acts. Breathing is actually a vapor, exchange. So you need that. Vapor is part of water, hydration. So you need all these things. You need hydration, period. And then the other big thing about the glymphatic system and detoxification is that we detoxify the vast majority when we sleep. And
Right.
if we're not sleeping, you're not detoxifying.
Yeah.
And so that yet another reason of why sleep is up there with food and water and shelter and sleep.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, such important information. As you were explaining this, I'm just like having these pictures of the dried out cadavers, and how if it's not a big clunky organ, we're totally going to miss it, because the glymphatic system is such a delicate, small, living, wet system. I can see why we missed it for
Yeah.
so long. That makes complete sense to me. And my other thought was, as a surgeon, I was always taught the solution to pollution is dilution. So, like, after I would do a hysterectomy or a C-section, I would douse that incision in water, sterile water, to dilute the toxins, to get rid of the bacteria. And so I just think that we need to give more credence to the fact that we need to get hydrated. So important, not just because we need to drink water and not be thirsty, but because we're trying to detoxify. We're trying to dilute things that shouldn't be in our bodies, and that's how our body gets rid of them. So the work
Wow.
you're doing is so important.
I love that, though. I've been saying it over my head. The solution to pollution is dilution. I love it.
Yes, it's true. I mean, knock on wood, I did not have the post-op infections that some of my colleagues had, because that was my priority, was like, I would always just drench that wound and clean it out, even though you're
Yeah.
in a sterile environment, that body is still going through a traumatic experience. You're bringing up all those toxins and stuff. So I just
Yeah.
think
And
it's
we
so
have stored
important.
toxins in our bodies. Now you're bringing
Especially our
all these.
fat cells,
Yeah,
which are right
exactly.
under our skin.
And you're opening this body and bringing all this inflammation and cells that are coming into it. Yeah, that's very interesting. I could have never been a surgeon. I have to be meticulous, and I'm so not meticulous in the way that they did it. And I so like that's probably also why you didn't have the just being completely meticulous from start to finish. It's very
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So good. Oh my gosh. Did we cover all the important things? So your patient population is pretty much like mine, middle-aged women. I hate that term, but that's us, right?
yeah.
The empowered, doing it all, being it all woman. How's that? So what are like the big takeaways that women need to hear from you today?
So, first of all, I am collecting patients and friends and women's stories who are over 60 who are doing amazing things to change themselves, to change the world. And it's remarkable that I think that this is the greatest untapped resource that we have in this country.
Oh,
I really
amen.
do. These women who have gone through they're having their kids, the wisdom that we can tap into it's unbelievable. And I have great stories to tell of people that I'm collecting in my head. And um,
That gives me chills because I have patients every day that I'm in awe of. I'm like, you are incredible. You're like 66 years old and you look amazing and you're like living your life and doing what you want. And they have this confidence
yeah,
that
yeah.
30 and 40-year-olds don't have.
Yeah, I
So,
can't like I'm 53 and I sort of like and I'm every day I'm seeing it in my and especially with the pandemic that like pardon my French, but we just don't give a anymore,
yeah, yeah.
and I think that that's good. I think that's confidence, and the confidence. I've never felt more beautiful in my life. I've never felt more confident in my life, and it's like from when I was 20. Like I look back and I'm like, God, what was I thinking then? We all
Yes.
say it, but
Uh-huh.
it's true. Like there is so much to look forward to, for women. I do think that the wisdom and what we're capable of doing, making great change, and I think we are the next leaders of this world. I just do. I know
Yeah.
it and I see it, and I think anybody listening who's a woman knows it too.
Amen. Yeah,
Truly,
that's so good. Well,
truly,
I'm really excited. So you're going to like collect all these stories and hopefully grace us with some amazing wisdom. That would
yeah,
be really awesome.
yeah.
So good. Okay. So I'm going to have the links in my show notes. Where do you want people to connect with you?
They can go to my website. It's www.drdanacohen, drdanacohen.com. And so you could definitely connect with me there. There's an email sign up, a newsletter, and on social media, I'm Dr. Dana Cohen on Instagram and Dana Cohen MD on Facebook. Um, so yeah, I'm everywhere that you can. You can Twitter,
Or just
LinkedIn.
go to New York City and see you, right?
Come to New York City. Let's have.
I
We could
kind
have.
of want to do
Oh
that.
well, let me know if you're here. We could definitely go have a cup of tea or something.
Yes.
And I can't wait for this to be over. I know we're all really tired of it. We have to stay vigilant, but I do feel like there's an end in sight. And yeah,
I do
so
too. I do too. And now is the best time to be just taking care of yourself, making yourself priority number one, right? I mean,
yes,
I kind of feel like this pandemic has been a timeout from the universe. Like you're all being put in timeout, go sit in your corner and figure out what you've been doing wrong and get your crap
yeah.
together, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
So,
don't beat yourself up because we're already 9 months into it, but start now. If you
yeah,
haven't started, start now.
exactly.
Start with hydration, the most important thing you could do, and then sort of go from there. Once again, once you start there, you're starting to feel a little bit better. Things will really start to domino in a healthy way, and you'll start
Hmm.
to eat a little bit better. You'll start to move a little bit better. It's the stepping stone that you need to make some really great changes. And in the book, we lay out a 5-day program. And honestly, you'll notice a difference in 2 days. So,
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I saw some Ayurvedic doctor, and the first thing they said to me was, you need to drink an entire glass of water when you wake up. That is how dehydrated you are, just based on my fatigue, my constipation, my dry skin, the dark circles under my eyes. And I will tell you, probably by the third day, it was such a vast difference just starting my
yeah,
day off with that glass of water before I touched any coffee, before I did anything else. And now it's a habit. Now I don't even think twice. And it has made a huge impact. So thank you so much for like showing us how important something so simple
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Just a good reminder.
Thank you.
So, yeah, thank you so much. When you get your other book out, you better come back and share it with my guests,
Oh, I would love to.
listeners.
And
Okay.
if and when you're in New York, come see me.
Definitely. Okay. Thanks, Dr. Dana.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Wasn't that an awesome episode? I just find it fascinating that we are still learning about basic things like water and how our body utilizes them. And I mean, we really don't know that much when it comes to the world of science, our bodies, how we interact with the environment. I mean, scientists are learning new things every day. So it's really important to just keep an open mind and listen to podcasts and, be ready for new advances in science and technology and everything, because we are going to figure out how to get healthy again. We have spent decades putting toxins into our environment and destroying our bodies. And now we put the brakes on, we're ready to make a shift and get back to healthy living instead of convenient living, because I think that was a big reason that our bodies are being destroyed. So I'm really optimistic that there's a huge health movement, and you need to jump on board and go on the trip with me, because it's going to make a big difference in your future. So I would love for you to go get Dr. Dana's book, Quench, right? Beat fatigue, drop weight, heal your body through the science of optimal hydration. Such important information. So cool. And reach out to her. I'll have the links in my show notes. But more importantly, I want you to find that golden nugget of information. What did you get from this episode today? What are you going to take with you, incorporate into your daily life to make a shift toward better health? So if it's just drinking one glass of water in the morning like I do, it's a big deal. It really has changed me. My ability to get moving in the morning and not be dependent on coffee for that energy. The water is where it's at, ladies. Being able to poop regularly, being able to have energy, having my skin not be so dry, having my fascia and my joints not be so tight and painful because I hydrate them. So find that golden nugget from today's episode, start incorporating it. You're going to add it to all the golden nuggets that you get from every episode, right? Every time you just keep adding on little changes, they're going to add up. You're going to have a whole new you in another year. It's going to be amazing. So awesome. I would love it if you'd hit the subscribe button, share this with all the women in the world that you know, or even strangers on your social media. If you tag me, I'll send you an awesome gift. And send me your questions. I'm here to serve you. I'm here to support you as another woman. I want to lift you up, help you be your best. So don't hesitate to reach out to me at Dr. Tabatha. So go out, have a kick-ass week, ladies. Bye.